This week, India jumped 30 spots in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business rankings, a much celebrated improvement. It's perhaps ironic that in the very same week, India has dropped 21 points in another index. That is the Gender Gap Index prepared by the World Economic Forum. This year, India has ranked at 108 out of 144 nations, behind Bangladesh and China. Last year, we ranked 98, and in 2006, the year that the index was established by the World Economic Forum, we ranked 87. Now, the ranking is based on 4 parameters: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. In all these 4 parameters, the big drop has actually come in political empowerment over the last 1 year. The most abysmal of rankings is in the category of health and survival, where we ranked at 141 out of 144 nations. Can we really talk about an empowered new India without improving the lot of half the nation's population? To talk about this now, I'm joined by Supreme Court lawyer Karuna Nandi. Thank you so much for speaking with Bloomberg Quint, Karuna Nandi. You know, just your comments on the fact that we rank so poorly in the Gender Gap Index, and we seem to be faring worse than how we were doing in 2006.
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Honestly, I think it's a bit of a disaster, because if you look at, let's come to the positive first, right? During the election of 2014, the nice thing to see was that all of the political parties were stating as their purported purpose that they would take India's women forward as citizens like anyone else in their representation in government. Right? Now, on this basis, I think a lot of people voted, some people voted for other parties, a lot of people voted for the BJP in part on this promise. And that, I think, has sadly, the bad news, abysmally failed. Now, this abysmal failure, just to add one more thing to the positive. Look, in the U.S., you have, President Trump, who is saying all sorts of things about admittedly assaulting women, and there's that level of lack of acknowledgement of women's full citizenship rights, which we do not have here, right? However, the bad news is that there is an abysmal failure in terms of implementation. There's a lot that is said about the Ujjwala scheme, providing LPG, and there's a lot that's said about the Beti Bachao Andolan. But if you look at concrete terms, women's labor workforce participation has been dropping dramatically. In terms of the patriarchy that surrounds women, and I think this, I think those kinds of trammels have not been decreasing. And if you look at the I think a lot of people believed in the past that with development would come in natural terms, in inevitable terms, the breakdown of patriarchal structures. We have seen all over the world that this does not happen, that this is a thing in and of itself that needs to be attacked, right? Which has not happened in this country.
Sure.
So I think that this is a bit of a wake-up call. And I do believe that this government, for sure, because each year is a year in the life of a woman and a girl who needs, who needs to have her due power as a citizen, right? And a woman who may be being, because of that lesser power, maybe being sort of defrauded of her property rights. A woman who may be, attacked as a thing. So I think this is very urgent. However, I do think that, I wish they would make a plan, to be honest.
Exactly.
Address.
No, and
why did a plan not be made?
Exactly, and I also have Sari Chahal, founder and CEO of Shiro, joining us in this conversation. Before I come to you, Sari, the world has done badly this year. On the global index, we've moved back. This report says it will take 100 years to close the gap between men and women, to close that gender gap. Guess how many years it will take to close the economic gender gap? 217 years. And why is no one talking about this is the question.
Right. So, may I jump in?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Yeah, okay. So, I think while we've been talking a lot about women empowerment, and there are a lot of campaigns, some of them sound like PR campaigns around the issue, I think the net outcome that we need to derive will come from 3-4 major pillars. Women's safety and bringing perpetrators of violence against women to book as a priority, because it does set the power equation in the society and deepens patriarchy every time we let somebody go unpunished. Major, investments in healthcare and education. I don't know of a country or an economic model or a social model that has gotten there without investing deeply in human capital and infrastructure. And until India looks at that seriously, we're going to have the same issue crop up over and over again, because we are not addressing the problem at the bottom of it. So I just feel that we need to take away the gloss from everything that we've been saying on women's issues and go down to deep impact, which comes when we make significant investments and create a political commitment to the issue.
Some of the things that this report says, and quick comment from Karuna on them. A few of the reasons that we have fallen or we are so low is that we do not have a law that mandates equal wages for men and women. We do not have any kind of reservation or quota for women politicians, and of course we've slipped there as well. Are these things that we need to start thinking and talking about, because it just moves to the back burner somewhere?
Look, the Ministry of Labour does have something called the Equal Remuneration Act, but I think we must recognize that the vast majority of women and men work in the unorganized sector, right? So whether it's the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, for example, this is something that's not addressed properly, because people are mainly looking at companies and factories and, other workplaces and governments. So with the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, we need to look at setting up local complaints committees and make sure that the government is, sort of doing the work that is required to do under that act. I think looking at possibly tribunals, possibly just the courts, and having equality legislation, right? And not just, there's a sort of disproportionate focus on sexual harassment and sexual assault. And it's at the tip of the iceberg, not nearly enough work is being done there, right? What is not looked at enough, as you just quite rightly pointed out, is equal pay, is equal avenues for growth and promotion, is that kind of power. And, say, for example, and also sort of concrete redressal mechanisms for that. So, for example, if somebody is being attacked for some reason for claiming their due share in the family property, or needs a proper avenue for redress. So, when they're not getting paid the same, right? Yes, something that I have started working with workplaces on is making equality policies and not just anti-sexual harassment policies. Reason being that you want the best talent on the table. You don't want to bet the fortunes of your company and the goals of your company on sexism.
Yeah.
So, that would be particularly stupid and short-sighted.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, I think that while one can look at this at a company level, I think, the Shashi Tharoor did put in a bill that was worked on by Taruna Khaitan from Oxford and a number of others, right?
Yeah.
Looking at such a bill, but it's a minor. It didn't get the kind the government should put it.
Exactly. I have run out of time, so I must thank Karuna Nandi and Sari Chahal for joining us on this conversation. We talk about equality in the workplace. Let's face it, our worst ranking is in health and survival of women. And if we don't start treating 50% of our population the right way, I don't know how much we can hope for a brighter and better future. With that, I'm going to sign off from Primetime Debate. Remember, you can catch all of these shows and all the top corporate and business news on BloombergQuint.com.